got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay, cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency, a message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with. Now they looking nervously, and I don't really care what you think of me, respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better, see I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe, I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet next to me. I don't give a fuck what you say, yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say, yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way. Yeah, I'ma do it my way.
I shot my wife in the stomach with 38.
Why did you do this?
She enticed me and she ridiculed me throughout my lifetime. I'll see if she's alive. She's alive? She's dead. I think she's dead.
Sensational.
Good evening, everybody. It's been a tiring week. A very tiring week. It's like, football going on yesterday, the day before yesterday, doing lots of running. It's like, I haven't even sat at my computer. I've been sat in an armchair watching the TV or looking at an iPad and then going, fuck this, I'm off to bed. I think I'm getting old. I think I'm getting very old. I need to sort my will out. Most definitely. I might just keel over at some point. But the kids will be all right. They'll be all right. So I have no idea what's been going on. So I just thought I would watch some crap with you. I got a really interesting video to show you. I mean, it's a music video. It's not a music video from YouTube. It's not a music video that's copyrighted. It's a choir singing a really interesting, I don't know if it's a hymn or whether it's not a hymn. Anyway, I'll play it for you. It is religious, but it's Orthodox Church religious. And it's fascinating. do like a bit of power. I do like a powerful song. I couldn't give a shit whether it's religious. And those words that are in there, they're quite antagonistic. They're quite powerful. They're all about judgment and a lot of masculine stuff in there, and wrath, the wrath of God, the terrifying judgment. It's like I thought it was I thought it was absolutely brilliant. That was my view of it. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at what Joe Biden's been saying recently. This is a very, very little clip.
Biden, I'm Jill Biden's husband. Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way.
I'm Jill Biden's husband. There's a problem with that guy. And he's been at the NATO conference, of course. He's been at the NATO conference. Talking of that NATO conference, it was fascinating. This is a little clip that's from Alex Christoforou from the Duran. Where is it? Right, let's stop that screen because I'm moving about a bit now. I'm adding something that I wasn't going to add first. I was going to do something else first, but now I'm going to do this. Seeing as I put Jill Biden's husband on there. This is a clip of what Salty Stolty was saying on the opening conference before he'd been given his medal from Jill Biden's husband. And the words he's using are very, very interesting. The video is Alex Christoforou, who's from the Duran. And I'll just play some of what he says here.
There are no risk-free options in a war. And remember, the biggest cost and the greatest risk will be if Russia wins in Ukraine. We cannot let that happen.
He's talking about the war. The biggest cost, the biggest risk will be if Russia wins in Ukraine. We cannot let that happen. I'm sure NATO keeps telling us that NATO is not a party to this war at all. But we cannot allow this to happen. That requires NATO to be involved. Clap, 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 clap.
Not only would it embolden President Putin, it will also embolden other authoritarian leaders. In Iran.
Who do you think he's going to say? Ultra tyrant leaders. Who is he going to be talking about? I haven't got the volume on this up at the right position. Iran, China, Syria. Just you wait. Just wait until South America and the rest of Africa is coming for you.
In North Korea and China. They all support Russia's brutal war.
So it was Iran, North Korea, and China. Just wait for the rest. Wait for the Middle East. Wait for the whole of Africa. Wait for Syria. Question mark over Turkey. Wait for Serbia. Wait for Hungary. There's a lot of places, a lot of continents that are moving towards or away from. I'll say it that way. Then there's a lot of continents that are moving away from the West. Sick of the West causing all their shit. So Salty Stolty can say all he likes to all of the bigwigs out there, including Canada, who everybody's really pissed off with because Canada refuses. Canada talks a big game, makes a big hoo-ha about Ukraine, makes massive statements, and then doesn't pay any money in. Just relies on everybody else to do it. Yeah, everyone's pissed off with Canada. But the rest of the world are all pissed off with NATO in the West. So what are you supposed to do?
They all want NATO to fail. So the outcome of this war will shape global security for decades to come.
You know, I agree with Stoltenberg in a way that once Ukraine, NATO's proxy, this proxy war that NATO is fighting against Russia, once Russia wins, then NATO will be severely weakened.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good comment. The bit that I took away from that, was how much NATO really wants to be in the war. How much NATO wants to push war instead of peace. If you look at what Orban's been doing, Orban went off. Orban became the president of the council in the European Parliament. Orban, the president of Hungary, or the prime minister of Hungary, whichever one he is. He became president of the European Council, and he decided he would trot off to Kiev, see little Volodymyr, then he would trot off to Moscow, see big Vladimir, then he would trot off to Beijing and see massive Xi. And the rest of the EU has just gone mental. They've had an absolute meltdown. They hate it so much. They are looking to try their best to actually kick Orban and Hungary out from having the presidency, the 6-month presidency of the European Council. They're trying to kick him out in September, beginning of September or middle of September, something like that. Them doing their machinations. How can we get rid of this git? He's not speaking on behalf of us. And his response is basically, it's what Tucker Carlson said, basically. Anybody who is not looking for peace, which is exactly what I'm doing, I'm going over to Ukraine, to Russia, to China, to try and work out how do we get to a peace here. Anybody who's not looking for peace and is looking to fight instead is a warmonger. They are insane, which is essentially exactly what Tucker Carlson said. It's exactly what Elon Musk has said. And Orban is maintaining exactly the same frame that he has had all the way through. He wants this war stopped. He wants gas and oil to start coming back into the EU because he sees that the EU is absolutely screwed by this war. The only ones that are winning out of it, I mean, the big winner is Russia, but the other winner is America at the moment. And we will get into that. we will get into that. We'll get into America's winning at the moment, but maybe they're not winning as much as they think that they're winning. That's somewhat fascinating what's going on there. Let's have a look at this one. Add you to the stage. Now, what's this guy's name? He's a Brit. Neil McCoy Ward. The last 24 hours has changed everything, he says. And he's talking about NATO.
The press is releasing a lot of the things that are being discussed. And depending on how you look at it, if you like war, then it's positive for you. If you like peace, then it's very negative for you. Because the first thing that has come out today is out of Poland, and this is from the general of the army. He has called for preparing Polish soldiers for full-scale conflict. Poland has also increased troops at its eastern border and implemented the East Shield program to strengthen defenses against Belarus, but also in preparation for Russia.
Now, I don't have a problem with this. I don't have a problem. If I was Prime Minister of the Great British United Kingdom, I would be trying to maintain good relations, but I would most definitely be looking at developing a really strong defensive military. It's not that easy in today's day and age to find people in the Great British Isles who would be willing to fight on behalf of their country. But that's what you've got to aim for. So maybe we've just got to hit a bit of rock bottom yet. Maybe we really need to suffer a bit. And in a couple of generations, we might have some strong lads who want to actually fight. Because this current generation doesn't seem to care.
So what they've said is that they are starting this new campaign now then to increase the troop numbers from 175,000 up to 300,000 troops.
Now, I think that's NATO in Europe, that 300,000. I don't know. I don't know whether he's actually talking about Poland here or he's talking about NATO as a total. It can't be NATO as a total. I mean, Britain's got, well, the last numbers I had was 60,000 troops, but most of those have probably retired. Maybe it's a lot less than that. I'm wondering whether that's just Poland on this Eastern Front up against Belarus. One of the big things that Poland is worried about is the corridor. The corridor along the side of Poland, and I think it's Lithuania, that heads to Kaliningrad, and Kaliningrad is part of Russia out on the Baltic Sea. So it's like a little island out on the edge of Europe on the Baltic Sea that's not connected to Russia by a land border. The only way to get to it is via the Baltic Sea or over NATO countries, completely surrounded by NATO countries. So that's why they're particularly worried about the Belarus angle in Poland. It's that corridor to get to there. Belarus hasn't said or done anything at all in the last 12, 18 months at all. I find it fascinating that Poland is amassing lots and lots of troops, and they've got NATO doing lots of war trials isn't the right word, war games actually right next to the Belarus border. And I find that really interesting, because it's like It's purposeful antagonism while also being defensive. Don't bother trying to come over here because we're big and strong. And it seems to just remind me of the art of war. Act strong when you're weak, act weak when you're strong. And this really looks like the West is acting strong because we all know that they're really weak, which is fascinating to me. Because of course I don't know exactly how strong NATO is. But from what I can tell, none of these Western countries have got any, they've not really got any troops. Some of the Eastern European countries, the bigger ones, might have troops, like Poland, possibly Romania, Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. They might have 3 or 4 men. That's about it. They can all fit on a postage stamp. Finland might have some strong troops. But that's pretty much it. Turkey won't get involved. I can't see Turkey getting involved. Hungary, I can't see getting involved. So they're looking for 300,000. I'm going to say that this is Poland. I can see them getting 300,000, and they're whipping up their people. Rah, 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 Russia's going to come at you. It's like, what a load of crap. Russia won't go further than Ukraine at all. Russia learnt that in the Second World War. They learnt that when Napoleon tried to go at Moscow. If you extend yourself too much, you lose the war. Once Hitler went into Russia, that was it. Hitler had lost the war. He was going to cause a hell of a lot of problems for Russia, and 27 million died, but he lost the war. And he lost the war because he stretched himself. And Stalin knew that. Russia knew that. They just had to be strong enough to take him out. And they did. They suffered a lot because of it, but they did it, which allowed D-Day to happen, and it allowed them, Britain and America, to come in.
And this is in accordance with some of the NATO discussions that are going on right now. In effect, I'll summarize part of it here because there's a lot to go over. In effect, they're saying they just don't have the troop numbers for full-scale conflict at the moment with Russia. So there's these new proposals for each country, not only to increase their military budgets past 2% of GDP, they're aiming for about 2.5% or more if possible, but also to start this massive recruitment campaign. They're saying that they need a lot more boots on the ground. And of course, there's discussion about men and women as well. Should women be conscripted? This is the big debate at the moment. So they're talking about this also. Because
oh, now that's going to cause a bit of heartache, isn't it? NATO, the NATO conference is talking about conscripting women. The draft. That's because most of the men are going, fuck off. They're just not interested. They're just going, forget it. We're not fighting bloody Russia. Russia isn't our enemy. Russia's not going to come further than here. So there's a lot of men who aren't taken in by the ideological bullshit that is being pushed by the governments and by everybody. There's a lot of men that are looking at Russia going, well, actually, my country might be better if they were over here. So, rather than all the ideological shite that's going on in our country. So yeah, we'll let the women go off. The women can go off and play pop 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 with the Russians. We'll build the coffins for you. So yeah, fascinating that he's saying that NATO is actually discussing conscripting women, drafting drafting them, as opposed to the very small percent that actually want to be in the military, actually drafting women.
Because there has been a big backfire in Germany around the conscription of women. So that looks like it may backtrack now. And they're saying that it's not appropriate and it should only be men that are part of this conscription. Now, we've got more on Germany, but we'll come to that in a moment, because Poland has also just committed. There was a meeting with Zelensky. Poland has committed to shooting down Russian missiles over the Ukrainian territory. Zelensky met with the Polish Prime Minister to sign a military agreement, and Tusk said that Ukraine should not cede any territory whatsoever to Russia, and they will give full military support, whatever is needed. Those are the words that were used.
Now that's fascinating. The idea that NATO is not involved if NATO is sending missiles from NATO countries to get involved in Ukraine. That will be the number one starter of NATO is involved. I think there'll be a lot of finger wagging, there'll be a lot of shouting, there'll be a lot of United Nations talks, but I'm not sure Russia would do anything about it, other than possibly start hitting Ukraine a bit harder. They'll start looking a bit more. I'm not sure under that circumstance Russia would start going after Polish bases in Poland where the missiles came from, but who knows? They might.
We'll talk about what Keir Starmer, the new British Prime Minister, has said as well.
The great British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer.
So if you thought the Conservatives, the last government, were giving a lot of support to Ukraine, you haven't seen anything yet with the new announcements. And
Wix gives you the power of...
I love adverts. Don't we all love adverts on YouTube? It was going to happen.
Yeah, when they actually met and they hugged and all this, Starmer and Zelensky, there was a lot of hush-hush words going on. But basically, you can pretty much read the writing on the wall with what was said. He said that we're a new government. We're not going to be like the last government. We're going to help you, whatever it takes, similar to Poland. Biden has also had a lot to say. He has come out fighting quite hard, a lot of strong statements. He said that the next phase is going to be air defense systems. He's sending new air defense systems to Ukraine. And in a joint statement between Washington, The Hague, Copenhagen, etc., they have announced or confirmed the delivery of US-made F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine, which will be in operation in the coming weeks.
Anybody remember how Biden defined America?
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to excuse me.
Now I have no idea whether that drop came through, but it was America can be defined in one single word. It's excuse me. Now, Biden hasn't really got much better since then, as I showed with his Jill Biden's husband statement. No idea what he was trying to say or who was trying to say something to. No. But Biden and NATO do seem to be pushing as much as they can prior to the next presidential election. So they've got until November the 5th. And then they've got until what is the date? Is it January the 20th? Just push everything through, get everything through as quickly as possible before Trump gets in. but they're going to do everything that they possibly can up until November the 5th. Because they're desperate. They're ideologically desperate. They cannot get away from their ideology. These people clearly weren't beaten up by bullies or bigger people or peers who were just as strong as them when they were younger. And any bloke that had that upbringing knows precisely when to back down, when to go, it's time for me to get out of this, and I'll come back stronger some other fucking time, or I won't even come back to this area. It's like, I'm just going to get out of here because I'm not going to win. And you get that sort of beaten into you from a physical, from a masculinity, from an intellectual base. You know who you can go up against and you know who you can't go up against. And when it's an intellectual base, you're needing to develop more knowledge, more expertise, more skills, the extra bits, so that you can actually take these people down with their own words and their own ideology, and you can explain why it's a right load of shit. If your purpose is to take them down. But when it comes to just straight ideologists who refuse to even hear what the other side says, and then when the other side comes on, they just insult them, they just shout at them, they overtalk them, they just abuse them, they make shit up, they gaslight them, they lie, which is exactly the governments that we've got at the moment here in the West. And it takes a lot to actually see that they're lying and talking bullshit, but we know that's exactly where we're at with Keir Starmer and with Biden.
So apparently there's quite a lot of these fighter jets. We haven't got the accurate numbers at the moment, but there's a lot of them being sent from various NATO allied countries, and they are going to be used fighting against Russian fighters. Also, they say initially it's going to be for defensive purposes. So they'll be used to take out Russian equipment on the ground and also Russian planes in Ukrainian airspace. But
now, the interesting thing is they might claim that that's defensive, but it's not defensive. That's offensive. That is them going into a third country that is not a member of NATO to actually fight somebody else. That is straight offensive. It's not offering help like they're helping them now with lots of money, with lots of armaments, with lots of tanks and missiles and anti-air protection, defensive stuff. The idea that Poland or NATO can actually go into Ukraine to fight against Russians and say it's defensive by NATO, that's just absolutely nuts. The thinking of these people, they have no idea what they're talking about. Objectively, it's untrue. Subjectively, it's untrue. And Russia will find it somewhat amusing, but also exasperating. The rest of the world will clearly see that NATO is the aggressor in that regard, or the warmonger, the ones that want to get involved, which means that Article 5 is out of the water because NATO can basically just say, oh, well, they're our friends. We like holding their hand. And because it's Russia that's involved, then we're all going to go in. So it's like, yeah, it's not a defensive alliance.
they said that they're not going to rule out actually using these planes to attack Russian targets inside Russia. Now, think about that for a moment. That is a further escalation of this conflict. And Putin's already come out and made some quite strong statements about this, that if Western fighter jets are used to attack Russian facilities and positions, etc., then there's going to be further escalation. And as I've said a few times over the last couple of weeks to each and every one of you, I really do think you need to start thinking about a plan B here. You really do. I've got my plan B and my plan C.
Yeah, he goes on about his plan B for a bit and his plan C and getting his money out and going to live somewhere else. Not the most interesting aspect of that video it goes into now. I'm sure there are really good elements of it. Let me show you the video's name again in case anybody wants to go and see it. It's a guy called Neil McCoy Ward. He does end up talking about the fact he used to be in the British Army, and they keep you on a reserve list after you've left until the age of 40 or something. But when it's a draft, they basically draft people up to the age of 55. So he's basically working out his way of getting to a different country where they can't actually get him, which will probably be a non-NATO country, possibly Africa, possibly the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Dubai maybe, or even India. India's definitely moving away from the West and moving much more towards Russia. There's a big spat with America going on at the moment. And Modi was just in Russia, seeing Putin. Anyway, I'm going to stop that one there. Let's talk about, there's a little bit of men going their own way and a little bit of sexism probably coming up here, but it's not too strong. It's an interesting little one. I found this guy called Angry Guy. I can't tell whether he's young or older. I really can't work out. I get the feeling he's a bit older. He's probably in his mid-30s, something like that. And it's all men going their own way, and some of it is just the same old. But this particular video, which has just come out today, I think it's yesterday, just came out yesterday. So some of the stuff that he's saying in this is quite interesting. He's linking together a few bits that I think is worth sharing. Nerdy might like this. I don't think Sandy will. Let's see. Add you to the stage. So this is a guy called Angry Guy. And he's probably as grating as I am. But anyway, he talks over the top of videos of whatever video game he's playing. So we'll just go with this.
You have women making videos of men at the grocery store saying, oh, this old man is glancing at me at the grocery store. There's a giant YouTuber, I think his name is The Blind Surfer, who was put out of the gym because a woman said that he was looking at her. He then explained to the people at the gym, the employees,
this is my favorite multi-tool kits.
These favorite multi-tool kits. I've got to go and buy one. I really do. I've really got to go and buy one of these, I tell you.
Blind. I'm legally blind. They did not.
So what happened was there's this woman in the gym. A woman in the gym, and she's there and she's videoing. She's doing a usual TikTok gym video, which is all about, I need to capture somebody glancing at me so that I can make a video, as if to say somebody was staring at me. So this sexual assault, this is violence against me. I have seen a few of them where the blokes have walked up and just kicked their camera, their phone, and smashed them. But the guy who she complained about was actually blind. He couldn't actually see her. He might not have been completely blind, but what he might have seen is just this this lump of something that's 3 or 4 yards away. So he might have just known there was somebody there that was moving, but wouldn't have known whether it was male or female. Certainly wouldn't have been gawking at her, but he's blind, and so he's doing his stuff, and his eyes are in a direction that he can't see what he's looking at anyway. She complains and gets him kicked out. She gets him kicked out, a blind man kicked out of the gym for staring at her like a sexist pig.
Here, they still had him put out of the gym. This is the society that we now live in. This illustrates just how little we are liked, how much they do not want us here. You know, if something like this happened maybe 30 years ago, it would have been seen as a complete and utter disgrace. Okay? And parents would have been ashamed. I'm going to tell you, like, I've lost so much respect or even faith in people. You really shouldn't have faith in anyone at all. But it's like you view people kind of like, wow, you know, you have no humility. You have no, like, how do you raise someone? How do you raise a kid to do something like this? How can you have your daughter out here doing these types of things? You know?
You know what's interesting is that no one really knew what girls were like when I was growing up. We were all very blue pill. Everybody, the sun shone out of girls' backsides, you know. Everything was about having a girl on your arm. And it wasn't that difficult as long as you weren't a nerd, as long as you weren't a geek, as long as you hung around with a bunch of people that were, I hesitate to say interesting, I'm not sure that interesting, but who weren't over concerned about what other people thought, who were able to stand up for themselves. But now if I look back at it now, it was merely a case that actually we were the more interesting lads for a particular subset of girls that couldn't get the most interesting and most good-looking guys. So we were like the second or third tier down, and we had our little group, and everybody would hook up and then stay together for a month or two and then hook up with somebody else in the group. And it'd be like, you're all passing each other around. And nobody got particularly upset about it. We were just young. It's like we all knew that things weren't going to be forever. But none of us really knew anything. We all assumed, as the guys, we all assumed that the girls were actually quite nice. You know, they weren't nasty. They weren't vindictive. They weren't attempting to destroy your reputation. They weren't looking for you to spend shed loads of money on them because they knew that none of us had any money anyway. We were teenagers. But yet, I don't know what it's like nowadays, because everything was about the people you knew or the places you went to where you developed a friendship zone. If you go out as a big group, then other big groups come and join you, and it all becomes a laugh, and you have a good time together. You get to know somebody. And yes, you originally might fancy Helen over here. Helen over here might be really gorgeous, and you originally might fancy her. And then you talk to her and you find that she's not interesting. And then her mate, Susie, who's nowhere near as good looking as Helen, she's actually fascinating. And that fascination, the interest in Susie, makes Susie 10 times the person that Helen is. And of course, because Susie never gets hit on by loads of people, and because you're really interested in Susie because of her personality, that often ended up with people in quite long-term relationships in comparison to what it was usually like. But I've just no idea what goes on now, not with millennials and with Gen Z. It's like they don't even go out. They're not getting together when they're out, or that's what it seems from the YouTube and everything. It's like, it's just very insular. It seems to be disrespectful. It seems that people aren't going out to try and meet people. They're just trying to get something out of it. And I guess I'm used to that as well, in terms of it's been around for at least the past 5 years that I've started understanding what's going on here from a YouTube perspective, which is clearly not everybody. It might not even be the majority. It might just be the stuff that gets onto YouTube because it's the most interesting. But it does seem to be moving much, much more mainstream. MGTOW and men going their own way is becoming quite big. I've got to say, there are so many men who are just going, fuck it. Can't be arsed. I'm just going to focus on myself. It is not worth it out there. And I feel really sad for that, because my youth, my early adult life was just fantastic. And practically everybody that I knew, their youth and their early adult life was fantastic. And it really seems like for most people, their teenage and up to mid-20s, for most people, it's sheer hell by the sounds of it. If you go onto Reddit, if you go onto YouTube, if you go onto TikTok, it's sheer hell for most of the blokes because they can't get anything. It's sheer hell for most of the women because they realize they've become sluts and they're just jumping around between a few men who are having all of the girls. And they've got lots of money and they've got slick hair and nice skin and they're the right, whatever it is that they've got that is giving them that edge over everybody else. And of course, everything's done through dating apps. I was watching this video the other day, and it was one of these dating app, not dating app, one of these dating coach things, and there was this lady, I can't remember her name, Nadia or something. That I don't know. And some bloke. Then on the side there was this other bloke. So the original bloke, who is the male dating coach, used to be a pickup artist, and he seems to be really quite soft. And the woman was talking all about dating apps, and the bloke was going on about you've got to get into different environments. He was basically talking like a Gen Xer. You've got to get out. You've got to be doing stuff face to face, etc. But the single guy who was actually doing that wasn't on any dating apps, would have the occasional once a year fling, which might end up into a 2-year relationship, then it ends, blah, 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 usual stuff. He was doing it the way that the two of them were trying to set it out on the video, that's how you should do it. But as soon as he said this, the lady said, "What? You're not on the dating apps? How do you do it? You're not on the..." And it's like, she just went back to her actual position. The only way to do it is via the dating apps. Get out there, push yourself with the best photos that you've got, because the only way that you can do anything is through your photos, and it's all about sexual objectification. And if you're lucky, you'll get you're a top 10 or 20% guy from the photos and the money and the physique and your clothes and your car that's in your photos, and that's all they're interested in. And it's like, it was all a grift. It was all a load of bullshit. And then there was this other thing that I saw. Somebody set up a complete fake account, basically said that they were the fake account said, "Hi, essentially, hi, my name's Chad. Got this brilliant physique, this fake photo stolen from somewhere, pretending that that's him." And he said, "I've just got out of prison. I was in prison for child abuse." And he was showing all of these messages that he was getting from all these women who didn't care. They didn't give a damn that he was an ex-con for child sexual abuse. They just wanted him. It's like, what the hell's going on? Very, very strange. Now, I'm not saying that there's everybody doing that, but he was just going through pages and pages of messages that he's getting from women just because he looked really good and he's got a bad boy history. I don't know what's going on. I really don't. I know you've got to be interested enough. You have to be interesting enough to make somebody want to spend some time with you. But you don't need to be that interesting.
Because people would have been ashamed, society would have been ashamed a long time ago, 30 years ago isn't even that long. But it's like something like this would have been just like unheard of. He looked at me, he's looking at me. Oh, it turns out he's blind.
This is like ChatGPT for
ChatGPT for your meetings. What is it? It's Otter. Otter. I've got Otter. I like Otter.
Well, we're still going to have him leave anyway. And that story took off, but it's been happening over and over and over. And a lot of dudes, you have to wonder how these guys are being impacted, because, you know, women are pulling out their camera, making these videos. And the reason why they're making these videos also is so that they can put them on TikTok and gain views, because that's what women are doing. They're using these opportunities to gain views off male suffering. They are profiting off male suffering.
See, I'm not sure it's about male suffering. I think it's about female supremacy. So I think it's a flip. It's a positive thing. They get validation. They get lots of tweets. They get, "You're a strong, independent woman." They get upped on the pedestal. They rise in power. It might entail male suffering within it, but it is merely a mechanism for the supremacy of these women in doing this stuff. But they are getting quite a bit of knockback nowadays.
That was what the M2 movement was really about. It was about women profiting off male suffering. It is so sick. You know, guys,
I've no idea what the M2 movement is, and I can't be asked to look at it because it sounds a bit like ideology that he's just taken something that was fringe. Anyway.
If men were forced by, because a lot of people have said this, and there are many of you that don't want to accept it, Gen Z is not capable of protecting Western society. 77% of them, when the U.S. military went to high schools, this was a couple of years ago, and they did a study. They determined that 77% of Gen Zers could not be enrolled, could not be recruited, brought into the military because.
I haven't looked it up. I haven't looked up where he got the numbers from. He's saying it's from the US military. I haven't verified it. But if those numbers are true, in America, 77% of Gen Zers are unable to join the military. You'd think America might have a problem somewhere?
Because of a variety of issues. All right, 77% were not capable of serving in the military legally because they were either too overweight, too mentally ill, or mentally incompetent, and or for substance abuse issues. And this is before they graduated from high school. Now think about this. If they didn't have any of these issues by the time they graduated from high school, they sure as hell developed them by the time they went to college or entered into the workforce. Well, those of them that actually even entered into the workforce, because a lot of them are not even entering into the workforce, period, at this point. They're just staying home and sleeping and farting. But this is the reality.
Staying at home, sleeping and farting. Okay. It is interesting. If you link it to the Russia stuff, if you link it to the NATO stuff, if 77% of people coming out of their teenage years, leaving school or leaving college, mentally unwell, physically unwell, alcoholic, druggies, they just can't actually go into the military. 77%. And I'm not saying that's just America. I can't see how it can be true. But I don't know whether this is... It can't be true. It can't be true. You've got all those states that are all sort of farmland, and there's still big wide open spaces where kids are brought up on the actual farm doing shit, hunting, fishing, catching buffalo. I don't know. Maybe that is only a quarter. Maybe everybody, nearly everybody in the cities is just being brought up without any masculinity. I did hear it's something like 50% of kids nowadays are brought up in a single mother household, of which all of those, their teachers, it's like 90% of their teachers are female, which leaves 40% of kids, 40% of lads have zero fathers in their lives. They have zero role models, nearly. They don't get any masculinity. All they get taught is masculinity is toxic. And everybody knows that that's not true. It's just the supremacy movement all over again. Masculinity is as required as femininity is. If you say masculinity is toxic, you will just turn around and go, feminism's toxic. Femininity is toxic. Because it's manipulative, because it's reputational destruction, because it's hypocritical, because it's lying, because it's gaslighting, because it's coercing, because it's emotional abuse, because it's all about my skin and my face and my body is my beauty, and therefore you have to accept me just as I am, and I just have to turn up and I am the table, you know? Then they eat the equivalent of the table and they look like fucking Gorlock. So it doesn't work in that way. We've got to get away. We've got to get to a more of a realism aspect, really. None of it really works.
That we're in right now. It's a very, very...
I think I just did a Biden then. I'm not sure that I even finished any sentence properly. or ended up concluding what I originally started with. I haven't even got a clue what I started saying in the beginning. So, yeah, just call me Joe or Jill's husband.
Sad reality. It's a terrible reality, but it's a reality that we have to confront. And we need to be mindful and realistic. Gen Z cannot serve. 77% of men before they even graduate from high school. What is that? What is that number at now? Because that was years ago. What is it at now? Because it was almost 80%. Now is it 85, 90? Like, you need to really acknowledge it, that these people can't do anything. Like, I don't agree with Cardi B. I 100% do not agree with Cardi B on a lot of things. But when she said that these little Gen Zers are not going to serve in the military, like, these people, you know, the kids, she said the kids dancing on TikTok, they're, you know, if something happens and we need to, like, build up the military, because guys, our military reserves are only 1/10 of what.
Something happens and we need to build up the military. Oh, let's use TikTok to do it. Let's get all these fantastic Gen Zers who are doing TikTok, tick. They'll defend our country.
They were 50 years ago. 50 years ago, it was almost 2 million. 50 years later, we have less than 200,000 people serving in the military reserves. We cannot protect ourselves.
More adverts. What advert is this time? Pieces Copilot. Okay.
All right. And there's so many idiots that are like, oh, it's okay. We don't need boots on the ground. Blah, 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 blah. We'll be all right. You know, you're being too, you're worrying over nothing. And I'm like, yeah.
We don't need boots on the ground. You'll be all right. Yeah, just wait till NATO sends you to fucking Russia. You're going to be fine. Draft. Choo. 31st of August, is that your birthday? Doesn't matter what gender you are, doesn't matter what sex you are. 31st of August, up you come. Straight into the meat grinder you go. We just need cannon fodder so that those pesky Ruskies can take you out.
And then when something happens, we have so many people with firearms in the U.S., you know, we can protect ourselves. They'll protect us. Have you seen this country? And then there's a lot, you know, I don't know, y'all. This is just like new levels of insanity. And, you know, men have been pushed out of every area of society. So men don't have a dog in the fight.
Men have been pushed out of every area of society. Men don't have a dog in the fight. I still think that men have got the internet. Certain parts of the internet where they're able to find information out, they're able to learn stuff, they're able to understand how they get fucked by the world. They eventually get to understand it. Prior to them getting to understand it, they act like I probably did when I was about 20. Defending girls, defending women. They're all sweetness and light. Spice, sugar and spice and all things nice. And it's like, yeah, I understand. I understand where these lads are coming from. I understand what it was like when I was 15 and just wanting to get my end away, at least for the first time. And then once it happened, it was like, okay. So I understand where they're coming from, and I understand the frustration. And for those people who are coming on to 30 years old, 33 years old, and they've never been near a girl, they've never kissed a girl, they're still a virgin. Holy shit, the frustrations that they must be going through. Because it's not like a lot of them are actually 2 out of 10. These are average guys. And I perceive myself merely as average. It's like, and it wasn't that fucking difficult when I was younger. And I'm just average. And these lads are getting nothing. There's something very strange has happened. something very strange has happened, and they are going to be exceptionally frustrated.
Because, you know, if you, as a man, if you don't have love for family or love for country, then you will fight for nothing.
If you don't have love for family or love for country, then you will fight for nothing. I think he's got that the wrong way round. I think what he needed to say, that last little bit, was, you will not fight. What's the point of fighting? You've got nothing to fight for. So he's talking a lot about patriotism here, or nationalism, nationism, love of country, having your girl to fight for, having your family to fight for, having your community to fight for, because it's your role to protect them. That was my time. I don't see that now. I don't see any patriotism. I don't see much nationalism. I see ideology. I see the desire to get away from all of these toxic masculine traits, but when you've got to fucking go and fight, you all want these toxic masculine traits to be back, because those are the traits that are required to actually go and fight to defend your country and go to war with fucking Russia. But they can't just be turned on. These kids nowadays, these kids nowadays they've had it drummed into them since birth that they're not allowed to do that. That person said a nasty word to me. You can't go and smack them in the fucking face and have a fight about it. You've got to go and tell teacher. And then they get expelled. What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to go, Captain. That pesky Russian person with the red hat over there, he shouted something at me. Can you go and tell him off, please? Can you put him in detention, please? That's not going to work. He's not a very nice man over there. He's not very nice. You'll find it's probably a Russian lady with a sniper rifle, and you're about to get a bullet straight through your fucking noggin. I don't think the world has understood what it's done. Because what else did I hear? I mean, I think it was that video that I showed the last time. I think that it was as if there's a shot. Oh, they've said they're going to let people out of prisons early. Keir Starmer, Britain, the great British Isles, going to let prisoners out of jail early. And I get the feeling there was a connection. There was a connection to fighting in Russia or fighting against Russia. You know, I get the feeling that most of the prisoners that would say yes to that would actually go to the front and then surrender to Russia quite quickly, because they know that their own old country is a load of shit. They'll have a better life over in Russia. They'll have a better life back in prison in Russia as a prisoner of war by surrendering. Anyhow, I've had enough of this particular video. I don't think he says that much more now, but I think that bit, if you haven't got family and you haven't got nation to fight for, you won't fight. You're not going to fight. That's his key message. He says it wrong. When he says you'll fight for nothing, that's basically at the tip of the hat. You'll just be quite happy to fight for no reason whatsoever. But he doesn't mean that. He means you just won't fight. because you've walked away. You've given up on love for your country. You've given up on patriotism. You've given up on the idea that you are going to save others in your country from the enemy, because you're just not going to do it. You're looking after yourself. You're looking out for yourself. You don't give a shit about what happens to somebody else. That's why all these people, where things are happening nowadays outside, and they're going, help me, help me, help me. Everyone, they just get their cameras out. They just get their phones out and start videoing. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to get involved. Why should they? Why should any bloke get involved in a third-party bust-up, irrespective of who's involved in the bust-up? It just doesn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't see why it would make sense to anybody else.
And most men today will fight for literally nothing. And then you look at modern women, all they're trying to do, they use men, all they want is our big thick wallets,
Yeah. Yeah, they just want wallets. Yeah. Yeah, I do get bored of Angry Guy after about 5 minutes. Let's have a listen to some American philosopher.
Who will damn the government from morning till night and oppose the state in 1,000,001 ways will, at times of national crisis, become incredibly patriotic and begin to say they will do anything for the state, and they begin to talk of duty, service, sacrifice, all of the words that are the worst words in the world, it seems to me, in a human sense. They begin talking about. Now, I don't know why this is, unless it is that these are such good-hearted people that they really believe that the American state is totally different from any other state, and it's certainly somewhat different, and that they feel that it is important to preserve. They feel they're preserving the country, but the only language that is available is to preserve the state. I have an idea that one of these days there will be another language in which we can talk about preserving the country, the landscape, the neighborhoods, the people in the communities, without talking about preserving the state. At which point there'll be a lot of radical farmers, factory workers, and small town residents in this country.
That's essentially exactly what Russia did in 1919. The people rose up. They decided they didn't want the state anymore, but they wanted the country. So the Soviets rose to power via Lenin and Trotsky, as they're fighting each other for the power and the leadership. Was Tolstoy involved? I can't remember. I can't remember who was involved. I know Lenin was there. Trotsky was there. And the whole concept was to get rid of the Tsar, to get rid of the elites, to get rid of the landowners, to stop them oppressing the people, which is exactly what that guy was just saying. I can't remember his name. What's his name? Karl Hess. Basically, get rid of the state, keep the country. But you have to have a really good idea of a way of running the country. And the Soviets didn't have one. From our point of view. From the history I've been taught, it was a really bad one. I have no reason to believe that it wasn't a really bad one, because it ended up falling apart after 70 years anyway. And from what we saw, everything was grey. There wasn't a lot of laughter and fun. And a lot of their shit didn't work. And they had funny little cars. So, yeah, you've got to have something good to replace what's currently here. I can't think of a better system than democracy and capitalism. But we have to stop the shit extremes of power mad egotists and ideological nutters from taking over. I guess some of the nutty responses are, well, women, we should take away the vote for women. Take away their rights. They're not human. Dehumanize them. It's like, what the fuck is going on? It's like, nobody ever wanted that. Well, they might have wanted that in the 1940s. That might have been why men were quite happy back then, the ones that had some sort of power. But throughout my lifetime, it's like everyone was equal, always equal. But it was equal on the basis of merit. Everything was equality about merit. You want to get on, you'd better be fucking good. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't really matter. And there were proper definitions for what a man is and what a woman is, because they're a one-to-one connection to sex. One-to-one connection to biology. There was no hypocrisy there. There was principles. There was an understanding. You want to do well, you work hard, or you take risks and get lucky, or you know how to work hard, take risks, and overcome the adversity of the wrong decisions by working even harder to correct it and slightly change direction. And everybody understood that. And now it seems that people have lost all those principles, all of them. And I'm wondering whether a lot of those principles actually came from men. Because if there are so many people who live their lives and are brought up without men in their lives, and they're having such major problems in their lives, like 80% of people in prisons come from single parent, single mother households where they do not have a male role model, positive male role model. I mean, those are shocking statistics. The statistics of the problems of children brought up in single mother households are unbelievable. They are absolutely horrific in every single way. Those kids, they've got their backs against the wall the whole time. They haven't got a chance. Not in comparison to anybody else, anyone else. Every other mechanism, every other method of bringing a child up is better than the child being brought up in a single mother household without a male role model in their life. I've got a video here by, what's his name? Sasha Yanshin. US inflation is over. And he's basically talking about, I'm not going to play it. I can't be bothered to play it anymore. I've had enough. I'm going to put my feet up. But what he's talking about is there were all these worries about inflation. There were all these worries about hyperinflation and America's going to, and it's now going the other way. What you've got is the latest figures have just come out and inflation is down at 2.9%. It's gone below 3% for the first time in a few years. But he's looked further inside it And what you've got is negative inflation, which is deflation in housing, mortgages and rent payments. And this is the second month that has happened. And he's now saying if this continues, because what he calls shelter, mortgage and rents and housing and whatever, if shelter is going down and reducing, that is going to pull the economy straight down. And he's looking at the American economy here, the US inflation. And he then starts talking about the problems of deflation, which are even worse than the problems of inflation, because deflation leads to a demand shock. People stop buying stuff, not because they're forced to stop buying it because the price goes too high due to inflation. They go, well, I'm not buying anything because prices look like they're going to go down. So why would I pay $25,000, $50,000 for that Tesla this year, where if I wait for a year, it'll be $40,000. If I wait for 2 years, it'll be $30,000. And what people don't realize is that as that starts going and people stop buying stuff, they think they're doing really well and just holding on to their money, saving it for when they think the price is right. But the problem is those companies go bust. And when those companies go bust, then all those people go unemployed. And because so many companies are going bust and so many people are getting made unemployed, the unemployment rate goes through the roof. The number of job vacancies falls through the floor. So you get this massive differentiation. And there's only very few people that actually have a job that can actually buy anything. So your economy absolutely craters and it can't get back. And that is the extreme that this guy went to in his video. And I do think it's an extreme. The chances of that happening are so small and so slight. But he was basically using the extreme example as a way of shaming the Federal Reserve, the federal bank. Because the federal bank is basically not making its decisions fast enough. It's not doing the right thing at the right time. He's saying that it was a few years ago that they should have been raising interest rates to ward off inflation. All the information was there, but the bank decision makers, the bank rate decision makers were going, we just need more information. They were a bit weak. In fact, they were very weak. And now he's saying that they're exactly weak right now again. And to ward off deflation, they need to make some decisions on the banking rate to actually do something, because otherwise it's going to get taken out of the hands of the federal bank and it will get put into the hands of the people. And we all know that people make the strangest decisions when they're allowed to do so. Right. Well, thank you everybody for coming on and watching. Who's out there? Nerdy Rodent says, I'm a solid 4.7. I wouldn't go that high. You got to fight for your right to party. Straight out of the 1980s, Nerdy. Was that 80s or did that just creep into the 90s? I'm not so sure. Yeah, I don't know if my drops work on here, Nerdy. Try this one. Let me know if this.
That's racist.
Let me know if that worked for you, because I'm not sure that they do work when I'm doing my own streams. Sandy's here. Thank you, Nerdy. That worked. Sandy says, have you ever seen a woman doing 3 things at once? Yeah. None of them worked. Nerdy says, nope, failed. What failed? The Sandy one never. It still doesn't.
Why?
I don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Maybe I'll have to use that. Maybe I have to use the Frogs Gay Alex Jones stuff until they kick me off YouTube for using Alex Jones. Oh well. Alex is okay, but Sandy never works. Sandy doesn't work. We know that. She just sits around just shouting at us on YouTube. But yeah, Sandy the hyperactive nerd says, have you ever seen a woman doing 3 things at once? And yes, I have tried to watch some women occasionally trying to do more than one thing at once and then claiming they're really good at doing more than one thing at once and utterly failing at delivering on either of those things or any of them. Nerdy, ever seen a guy doing 2 things at once before? Not very well. We need to focus. Sandy's put a gremlin in my program. She told me it would never work again. I think it's because it's from Greece and the Stream Deck refuses to do it. What's this about Susie and Helen that you're talking about here? Susie was a bit large, to be honest, says Nerdy. Sandy says you could have said Susie was well endowed. And I bet she was a better lay as well. Yeah, you might be right. You might be right, Sandy. Maybe not about the well endowed. Maybe not about the fact. But I do like a little bit of meat. I've never been interested in a Taylor Swift type. They're not that interesting to me. Something about having a conservative government for so long. Sandy smokes a bowl to celebrate birth control pills becoming legal. Let's hope they stay that way. Oh, yeah. Whatever. I mean, I was brought up in the era when it was all there. I mean, it's like one of the best things that happened to blokes in a lot of ways. She says she's on the pill. You get your end away quickly. You don't give her your proper name. You never see her again. Could have 15 or 20 bloody little heretic brats running around that I don't know about in their middle age. Who knows? M2 is that one. All right. It didn't twig. It did not twig. That's my Joe Biden's husband Ensha coming in again. A 2020 Pentagon study found 77% of Gen Z were ineligible for military service without a waiver. Overweight, drug and alcohol abuse, and presumably medical stuff, probably mental stuff. So that is a true thing. So Gen Z comes in 1996. Let's just say it's 1996. The study is 2020. So up to 24 years old. Yeah. So they are actually looking at the key number of people, the key type of people, the key age of people that they would be wanting to draft. Okay. What's the big boy conference? Sandy. You can cancel me for something. Nerdy just cancels himself. Best get it over and done with. Ranting while playing some video game. Not impressed. Yeah, that was Angry Guy. I can only listen to a few minutes of his stuff. It's like, it's the same old, same old. But I did think some of what he was saying today was a bit more interesting, only for a little bit of it. Thanks says, who's thanks? Insane live stream. Insane. We're all insane. Brojo says 50. 50 what? 50 question mark. Age 50? You're older than 50, Brojo. You just had your birthday. You're getting up to retirement age. Fucking pensioner. Oh, Sandy's put the broom down to come and laugh at me, or to laugh at herself. Nerdy, I'm not going to put that up, Nerdy. Nearly 69.
Just like a woman.
Anyhow, I think that is about it, and I might just have to play you out with some Russian men stealing a toilet. Goodbye.
Got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with, now they looking nervously. And I don't really care what you think of me respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better, see. I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe. I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way. Yeah, I'ma do it my way.
I shot my wife in the stomach with 38.
Why did you do this?
She enticed me and she ridiculed me throughout my lifetime. I'll see if she's alive. She's alive? Yeah. I think she's dead.
Sensational.
Things that men do to upset women.
Breathe. Just stop it. We don't like it. It pisses us off. Stop breathing, okay?
Okay, you're banned.